So you've decided you want to start backpacking. Today we're going to go over some of the things you need to know, as well as what gear you need to get started. So the first piece of advice I want to give you is that weight matters. Now this sounds simple enough, but most people don't really understand this concept until they're halfway up a mountain and feeling every ounce they have on their back. You really need to have kind of a minimalist mindset when it comes to backpacking. Now I'm not saying you need to be uncomfortable, but you need to really look at your gear and decide what you can and can't live without. Second piece of advice I want to give you is to do your homework. So many times I see backpackers get out on the trail and get themselves in trouble because they didn't do their homework before they left. They either don't know the trail or don't know the weather, and they're just not prepared for what they're going out for. There are some great free resources out there that will help you do your homework. A lot of the times ranger stations have great information about what the current conditions are on the trail and with the weather. Other great resources are apps you can get on your phone, like the Hiking Project app, which is free, and the Gut Hook app, which you do have to pay for, but is an awesome resource if this is something you're looking to get into. Finally, something else that's super important but doesn't get talked about enough is the principle of leave no trace. So when you're out backpacking, other people want to come and enjoy this wilderness too. So be sure that you pick up after yourself, you don't use the bathroom too close to the trail, and that when you break camp, it looks like no one had camped there to begin with. Now with gear, a lot of the times when you start backpacking, it's easy to get sticker shock when you first start looking at gear. Now understand that most people don't have the money to drop hundreds of dollars on gear all at one time. For many of us that have been backpacking for a long time, gear is something that we've accumulated over time, not something that we went out and purchased all at once. But for you, if this is your first time, or if you have a backpacking trip coming up soon and you don't have time to get all the gear, there are great ways that you can get gear without breaking the bank. First one is ask your friends. If you're invited on a trip by a friend, like most people are when they start backpacking, odds are they have lots of extra gear that they'll be happy to lend you, as long as you promise to take care of it. Another great way to save money on gear is to look for secondhand gear. Places like eBay, Craigslist, or Facebook sell pages are great places to find gear for not a whole lot of money. The only pieces of gear I have that I've paid full price for so far are my cooking mug and my stove. Everything else I have, I've been able to find at really good deals just by doing a few searches on the internet. Now the first pieces of gear that you're going to need are what backpackers refer to as the big three. They are a backpack, a sleeping bag, and a tent. I'm not sure where my tent is actually at the moment. Now these items are called the big three because they're the biggest, the heaviest, and the most expensive items that you're probably going to get. Now for backpacks, it kind of depends on what type of hiking you're going to be doing. If you're just out for an overnight, or maybe even for a 3-day trip, something between a 35 and a 45 liter would work great for you. If you're going to be out a little bit longer than just 3 days, something in the range of a 50 to 65 liter pack may be a bit more appropriate because they're going to have to carry more gear. Now of course that does vary a little bit depending on how much stuff you like to take with you and specifically what kind of gear you have. Now with sleeping bags, one of the most important things to look at is temperature rating. Now the rating that you'll see on the box or on the bag isn't the temperature at which it will be comfortable, but it's really just the comfortable at which you won't die. So you'll wake up the next morning, but you probably won't sleep very well. So if the temperature is going to be around 40 degrees, look at something around between a 30 and a 20 degree bag. If the temperature is going to be around freezing, look at something at 20 degrees or possibly even below that. Finally, something you're going to need is a tent. Now, if this is your first time backpacking or this is something that you're new at, odds are whoever invited you will have either an extra tent you can borrow or they'll have room enough in their tent that you can share it with them. However, if you really want your own tent or you've decided this is something that you want to invest in, there are some great inexpensive options you can find online, which I'll go further into in some other videos. Or if you have the money, just buy a new one. Now something to keep in mind with tents is that they're a little bit like sleeping bags. The number of people that they put on the tent is not actually how many can fit most of the time. So a 3-person tent will hold 2 people comfortably, a 4-person tent will hold 3 people comfortably. So if you're like me and camp by yourself a lot of the time, a 1-person tent may be just fine. I'm pretty minimalist, I don't need the extra room. But if you like to have somewhere to spread out some gear and have a little bit of elbow room, you may look at a 2-person tent for just yourself. Now each of these 3 items is really going to set the bar for how light you can get your load. So if you can, and it's in your budget, try to keep each one of these items as close to or below 3 pounds if you can. Now you're going to need a cook set if you want to eat on the trail. So the first thing you're going to need for that is some kind of a stove. Now there are a lot of different types of stoves out there, but some of the most common ones are either the little screw-on butane stoves like these, alcohol stoves, which can be made out of Coke cans or cat cans, cost virtually nothing and weigh virtually nothing, and also larger high altitude or cold weather models like the MSR Whisper Light. Now to cook in, you're going to need some kind of pot. It can either be titanium, steel, or aluminum. If you're cooking for one person, something between 500 and 750 milliliters is great. Now most dehydrated meals require about 500 milliliters of water to cook, so you probably don't want to get anything smaller than that. Finally, for your cook set, you're going to need some way to get the food into your mouth. Long-handled titanium spoons are very popular with ultralight backpackers, but if that's not your style or you don't have the money for it, there are lots of other options. When I first started backpacking, I used just the plastic cutlery that you can find in Walmart on the camping aisle for like 99 cents a piece. Now they're not going to be the best and the lightest, but they will work for a trip or two. Alright, the third category is water. Now there's lots of different methods that you can use to sterilize water. Sometimes people boil it, you can filter it. They make little SteriPens of ultraviolet light that you can put down in the water and fry all the little germs in there. For me, I like filtering. Now there are lots of different types of filters. They make pumps all the way down from large handled models to small squeeze models. I personally use the Sawyer Squeeze. It's a great little water filter that you can screw on the end of a smart water bottle or on a water bladder and filter water that way. It weighs only a few ounces and the cost is only $30. Finally is clothing. Specifically, socks are probably one of the most important pieces of gear you can have. Now you really want to stay away from cotton socks. They don't wick moisture well and they can get hot and cause blisters. Wool socks are fantastic for backpacking. They wick the moisture away from your feet, keep them nice and dry. Brands like Smart Wool and Darn Tough socks make super great products. If you have the money to afford them, I highly recommend looking into them. Now with shoes, I don't recommend you take something like Vans or All-Stars because they're not going to provide the kind of support that you need for yourself and the backpack that you're going to be wearing. Low-top hikers and trail runners are very, very popular with backpackers. They provide loads of support for your feet, keep you nice and comfortable, and will protect your feet as well. You're also going to want to stay away from jeans specifically. Jeans are great when you're out and about in town, but if you're walking for 10 plus miles, they're going to start chafing your legs and you're going to have a miserable trip. You're also going to want some kind of a jacket, whether that's a hoodie, a fleece like this, or a down jacket. Finally, you're going to need some rain gear. If you don't have rain gear, I highly recommend looking into Frog Dogs. They're a lightweight, inexpensive brand that I still use myself. Some other miscellaneous items that you probably want to take with you on the trail are things like a flashlight, a camp trowel and toilet paper, hand sanitizer, and some kind of cordage that can hold at least 50 pounds in case you want to hang up your food bag from a tree to keep it away from bears or raccoons. So that's pretty much it. If you think of something that I missed or you want to see something else in another video, go ahead and put it down there in the comments. If you found this video useful and you liked it and want to see more videos like this, go ahead and hit that like button and hit the subscribe button. There's going to be a lot of great videos coming out on this channel all about camping, backpacking, and traveling. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next video.